Okay, well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to the 2022 Fall Nembutsu Seminar sponsored by the Honolulu and Oahu Hongwanji Councils and the Office of Buddhist Education. We have a total of 85 registrants, and registrants are from temples across Hawaii and the mainland, and from other churches and organizations outside of the Hongwanji, including the Jodo Mission of Hawaii, Ministers Association, Temple Boards, VWA, Junior YBA, Senior YBA, and the Dharma School. So to begin, I'd like to call on Reverend David Fujimoto, Resident Minister of Mililani and Ewa Hongwanji, for an aspiration.
Please join me in a moment of reflection and devotion with your palms put together in Gassho. The Hongwanji Sangha is a community of people joined together revering the teaching of Shinran Chonin and saying the Nembutsu. We seek to share with others the wisdom and compassion of the Amida Buddha. By doing so, we shall work toward the realization of a society in which everyone is able to live a life of spiritual fulfillment. With that, the trusting heart gives us the opportunity and awareness to discover who we are. The Dharma never changes, just the way it's portrayed. With that, please join me in reciting the three treasures together. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Amida Butsu.
All right, thank you, Reverend David. Okay, we'll move on. If you guys haven't seen or heard from me before, my name is Wayde Toyama. They've asked me to share a little bit about myself before we get started. So I guess you may know me through various things such as the Kyodan or Junior YBA or something, but I'll run through my own bio real quick. So I was born and raised on the island of Maui, graduated from the University of Hawaii at Manoa with a degree in digital film production. After graduating, I started working for Enterprise Holdings, which is the parent company of Enterprise Alamo and National Rent-A-Car. And I work there today as Maui's fleet supervisor. More on the Hongwanji side. Like many temple kids, I grew up going to the temple with my grandpa and participated in Dharma School, Junior YBA, attended Yes Camp, went to Ibixi. When I went to UH, a friend of mine from Junior YBA invited me to go to the Buddhist Study Center and participate in their fellowship club. That's I'm not actually sure if it's still going on, but at the time it was a Hongwanji College Buddhist Youth Club at the at UH, and I joined the fellowship club and kind of stuck around the BSC for a long time and participated in things like summer session. In 2013, I moved back to Maui and joined my old temple, where I was quickly asked to be the Junior YBA advisor and serve on the temple board. And here I am now as temple president and Maui United Junior YBA advisor. So quick bio about myself. So next, I will introduce our panel. I'd like to start off with Sensei Koichi. I have everyone's bio separated. Okay. So we have Koichi Mizushima, married to Janet Mizushima, and he has a daughter, Ellie, and a dog, Chuck. Graduated from UC Davis in 1995 in managed economics. He has owned 3 Japanese restaurants. The first is Taiko Sushi, then Osaka Sushi, and Kamon Japanese Restaurant. He reestablished the junior YBA program at Sacramento Betsuin. He co-taught first grade Dharma School. He's the minister's assistant at the Sacramento Betsuin. He completed the Jodo Shinshu correspondence course in 2017. He was the programs director at Sacramento Betsuin, and he is currently the BCA youth coordinator, part of the BCA Center for Buddhist Education, and the BCA Ministerial Benefits Coordinator. He's also an Eagle Scout and enjoys occasional card games with friends and loves movies, music theater, and people who do magic. So welcome and thank you. Next, we have Joy and Brad Nakamura. Joy and Brad are married and have 3 children, a pair of 8-year-old twins and 1 14-year-old. They attend Jiko and Hongwanji. In terms of work, Joy is a special education teacher in the Hawaii Department of Education, and Brad is a professor of psychology at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Thank you and welcome. Next up is Cristina Gervais. Cristina is from the Big Island and attends Pompa Hongwanji Hilo Betsuin. She has been involved in many temple and temple-affiliated groups and activities throughout the years. I see Reverend David, including Gakuen, 4-H Clover Buds, Dharma School, Scouts, Junior YBA, BWA Student Exchange, Young Buddhist Leaders Seminar, and Yes Camp. She is currently one of the Yes Camp chairs. Cristina graduated from the University of Hawaii at Hilo and is currently working full-time at UH Hilo. She is also the Sangha Activities Coordinator at Hilo Betsuin. She coaches swimming, gymnastics, and tutors at Waikea Kumon Center. She continues to be involved in the temple along with her younger brother. Is it Bio, and younger sister Keiko. Welcome and thank you. Last but not least, it's Kieran Maesaka. Graduated from Kamehameha School last year and is now a freshman at the University of San Francisco. He is a 5-year member of the Junior YBA and the organist for Hilo Hongwanji. So thank you and welcome also. So next, I would like to ask each of the panel members some questions about yourselves. The first is, how did you initially become involved in the Hongwanji? Next is, what is your participation / role in the Hongwanji now, and why are you involved? And I would like to start off with Sensei Koichi.
Hi, thanks, Wayde. So my involvement now is, as you mentioned in my bio, I do work for the Buddhist Churches of America, the BCA. So I am officially hired under what we call our Center for Buddhist Education. I understand that Hawaii has something very similar, same letters, but I think they're in a different order, right? Something like that. But so I'm working with the CVE, and we do all of the educational programs that I'm sure many of you have seen. You know, we create those seminars. And I'm also working as the youth coordinator. So I'm in charge of putting together kind of the BCA-wide youth events that we have. And I also wear another hat as the ministerial benefits coordinator. So that was kind of a position recently added. I'm not like maybe most kids where I haven't come to church ever since I was like a little kid. I actually started later on in middle school. I was introduced to temple through the Boy Scout Religious Award. So I don't know if you have that in Hawaii. Do you have that, like the scouting? Yeah, you have the scouting awards. We called it the Sangha Award. And I took a class while I was a Boy Scout, and it was put on by our resident minister at the time. And so in middle school, I actually got hooked on Jodo Shinji Buddhism on my own, and then got active ever since. So that's kind of how it all started. Yeah. Thank you, Wayde.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll ask Brad and Joy.
Hi, good afternoon. In terms of initial involvement in Hongwanji, grew up with my dad, Reverend Bruce, attending Hilo Hongwanji and then Jikoin later. Participation in Hongwanji right now involves bringing our kids to Dharma service as Jikoin Hongwanji as much as possible, and then I'm involved in that capacity towards the aspirational goals of having the Dharma serve as foundational pillars for my children as core values as they grow into adults. And Joy.
Yeah, for me, I didn't grow up in the Buddhist church, however, through Brad and Reverend Bruce, they kind of introduced me, to the church, and I really enjoyed it. And we bring our kids now, as adults, we return, to the church and bring them, and we're very happy to be part of that. Okay.
All right, thank you. Cristina?
Hi. So I guess actually a little bit similarly to Sensei Koichi, I actually became involved in an affiliate organization first. I started attending Hilo Hongwanji Gakuen, and also 4-H Clever Buds from kindergarten age. And then I think when I was in the 5th grade, one of my best friends from Gakuen was going to a Dharma camp during winter break. So I joined her for that. And then I started coming to temple services and got involved in Dharma School and junior YBA and everything else. Yes, camp. Wayde said a little bit about it in my bio, but currently I'm the Sangha activities coordinator at Hilo Betsuin, and I continue to try to be involved in the temple as far as temple services and with our affiliate groups, heavily involved with Yes Camp. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Kieran?
Oh, well, initially I grew up in a Christian household, services on Christmas, on Kou at Kuohao. But and then my friends Bruin and Yukon Yamono brought me to this little thing called Junior YBA, where I started participating in like temple activities. We did bon dance, mochi pounding, cleaning up the temple, and I really enjoyed it. I started going to services. Eventually Nolan Yamaki got me to play organ for services like once a month, and from there I just became more involved. Now that I'm off at school up in San Francisco, I can't really be involved as much as I'd like to be, but in the future I plan on just continuing involvement there as far as YBA and organ participation will go. So
All right, thank you, Kieran. So next on the schedule, we have questions from, we have a bunch of submitted questions. There was quite a lot of questions that got submitted, so we'll try to get through as many as we can. If we have some time at the end also, we'll open it up for questions later. I believe if I believe if there's any questions, you can type them into the chat, and we'll try to get those answered at the end. Sensei Koichi has a PowerPoint too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. So shall we do the PowerPoint first? Is that
Whatever you'd like, Wayde, we can start with that. Absolutely. I was asked to join today's panel just to share with you some things that BCA are doing as well. And I really, really enjoy working with my fellow brothers and sisters in the Hawaii Kyodan. We've done so many things with so many people from Hawaii. And as I mentioned, I am the youth coordinator. So we have many youth from Hawaii Kyodan participating in our BCA seminars and youth activities. So we're really, really glad to have that participation. So just really quickly, I wanted to just kind of share with you a little bit about what we're doing here. As I mentioned, with the Buddhist Churches of America, this is a newly created position, this youth coordinator position. And I know many Kyodans have had a youth coordinator or youth director or something in that vein. And as of late, that position kind of disappeared, right? I know BCA and Hawaii both had, I believe there was a young lady by the name of Anne Ishizu many, many years ago. I met Anne many, many years ago, became friends with her. Anyway, so the youth coordinator position used to exist many decades ago, and I'm not sure who actually worked in that position, but it kind of went away. And I don't know the history behind why it went away or why that person stopped doing it. They must have kind of stepped down from the position, and they probably just never replaced that person, right? That's probably what happened. So how many of you here know Bishop Marvin Harada, Sensei of the BCA, Reverend Marv? Okay, some of you do. So for those of you that know Bishop Harada Sensei, Bishop Harada is a person that is filled with ideas and filled with vision and filled with just a driving force that his imagination, he just lets it go. And I remember in the spring, this was like in 2018, I was sitting with him in the office and he goes, "Oh, Koichi," like that. And he just goes, "You know, we can create a youth coordinator position." And he just came up with this idea in his office. And he talked about how we could create this position, put it in, and then I can create youth programming. And I said to him, "Sure, you know, whatever you want to do." And I really didn't think anything of it because it just seemed like one of many wild ideas that we always have. And after several meetings with the Center for Buddhist Education Board, the executive committee, of course, Bishop Harada actually creates this position, right? And here we are, right? It was a part-time position. They just started us off, and then we created the new BYR program, which is the BCA Youth Retreat. Has anyone heard of BYR? Like even Kieran or Cristina, have you guys heard about it at all? So we always try to promote out to even Hawaii. We invite the Hawaii kids to come, but it's a BCA Youth Retreat program. So we do one main one that is in the summer. It's a 1-week one, and then we do smaller programs throughout. Prior to the BYR program, we had what was called the YAC program. So that was the Youth Advocacy Committee Youth Program. And that was a long running thing as well. So we had all that history coming in, and then it's changed to the BYR. And as you know, COVID hit, and that just took the legs out from all of us. So I don't know how you guys got affected, but it just stopped everything. So it was super difficult, but I still managed to create a virtual youth program in 2020 and 2021. So we did these summer youth programs virtually on Zoom. I know everybody's tired of Zoom now, but we did it on Zoom. We did it 5 days. We made them log in from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. for like 5 days a week that entire summer. So these kids all signed up, and it worked out really, really great. And finally, this year, we were actually able to have our first in-person summer event. So that was really wonderful. And as you can see here, this is a picture of our Jodo Shinshu Center in Berkeley. So, you know, I think it was we're celebrating probably our 20th year for the establishment of this facility. So, you know, this is in Berkeley. There are classrooms, there are meeting rooms. So this is what we do. Oh, hey, there's Naho. Sorry to give a shout out like that, but so we do services, and we do all these great. We have meals there. We do everything there. So many of you probably know Michael Endo Sensei as well. So yeah, so it's been a really great opportunity to have this facility and to put on all of these great events, you know. And then the other thing I do is I do this, what I call BCA Jams, the Jodo Shinshu Artists and Musicians Showcase. So we put on this kind of talent show every year. So please, I encourage you all to join. There's no age limit. It started as a youth event, but we kind of open it up to everybody. And we do this great thing. We create this video. You know, I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but it's this whole video, you know. And then we did, you know, everybody comes in, they perform. See, we got rappers too. Look, yeah. So, okay. So anyway, anyway, I got my friend Mike Inoue. He's another Bay Area YBA person, but he does the news. He's the news anchor. So I got Mike Inoue to co-host that with us. So it's just another fun way to incorporate the youth. We're doing all this virtually. So we just tried to really be creative and do as much as we could. So anyway, it's been a really interesting ride. You know, we've been trying to be creative with our youth programming, but nothing can substitute for in-person gathering, in my humble opinion. So we are starting to do that a lot more now. And yeah, I think somebody mentioned for BCA Jams that Naho and Mana Allspatch, right? Both participated in that. So again, I love working with Hawaii, and it's been a really great ride. So sorry I took up so much time, Wayde. So please continue on with your program.
No, all good. And shout out to Chihiro, I think, from Junior YBA was also in there too. He's logged in with us today. So all right. Well, I guess then we'll jump into the questions. Does that sound right in the schedule? So yeah, there's like I said, there's quite a bit of questions. We also we have some junior YBA members who have joined us. So we may point some questions to our junior YBAers. So maybe be prepared. I don't know. So first question I have is, what are some successful practices in attracting and then ensuring participation of young adults, 20 to 30 years old, in our temples? So I'd like to start off with Sensei Koichi on that one.
Can you say that one again, Wayde? What was
What are some successful practices in attracting and then ensuring participation of young adults in our temples?
So that's been the greatest challenge for us anyway. So I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing, but the age range of 20 to 30 is probably one of the most challenging age ranges to get participation from. You know, they're at a time when they're exploring their young adulthood. Many of them are in college. You know, temples become, you know, understandably, temple has become a second priority to them, second or third or fourth, right? I mean, they got to do their studies first. Many of them move away. So yeah, it's been a really big challenge. But the one thing that I've noticed is, I think above all else, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to yield, you know, definitely go to Cristina and Kieran and all them for this, but they like just hanging out more than anything else. So as important as it is to create these big organized events and stuff, I think just the simple things of even getting together. So I think if we really promote just gathering and, you know, we always love food, right? And it could be simple, but just when we can just gather together, I think just creating that activity is probably one of the most helpful things. It doesn't always have to be this gigantic, huge conference-based seminar, you know, kind of a thing. We can just do smaller, simple things as well. That's what I think would help in that age group.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll jump right over to Cristina, since I think she's in that age category.
Yes, I am in that age category. I think that's like the $1 million question, right? How can we attract and ensure participation from people who are 20 to 30 years old? Jumping off of what Sensei Koichi said, I think a big thing is fellowship. Like it's a really wide age group, actually, because you have all the way from like figuring out college to jobs and careers and families and everything else that's going on in between. It's not, at least in my experience, like not everybody's interested in like taking on a leadership role or something that's going to be a lot of responsibility when you're at such a transitional time in your life too. But then at the same time, you need fellowship, you need friendship. Like there's, everything's changed. You've gone out of high school, you're in college, figuring out your college friends, or maybe you've just graduated from college and then now it's like, okay, everybody's kind of all over the place. I think like somebody was mentioning earlier about BSC Friendship Club, like that was a huge success in terms of just kind of starting out offering like parking for UH Manoa students in exchange for coming and helping with cleaning up the BSC, and then participating in activities. And then from there, a lot of friend groups formed, and they're able to help with Yes Camp and get involved in other ways. Being from the Big Island, like for me, like I went from junior YBA over to Yes Camp. And so you kind of know a lot of the same people, and it's kind of that our little community, and we're just hanging out together and coming up with these ideas, but it's not so scary to actually put them into motion when you have your group. And even if you're not really there to go and try to put together Yes Camp, like you get to hang out with some familiar faces, kind of decompress from all of the stresses in life and see what everybody else is up to. So I think I would say that was like a successful program in terms of kind of keeping us involved. It's kind of gone off a little bit due to COVID, but hopefully we'll be able to bring it back and get people to just kind of hang out again, start helping out with things like Yes Camp.
All right, thank you. Kieran, are you still 19?
Interestingly, I just turned 18 in August,
18.
but I guess I could throw some 2 cents in there. I'm not quite a part of that age range, and Christina's right, it is a very big age range, but I like that she brought up fellowship, because it's kind of hard for a lot of people to go to temple purely because of faith. So a lot of people go because of the sense of community. I like walking into the temple and seeing all the oldies, I'm sorry, no, that's very rude, I'm actually really sorry, but seeing them talk and just have conversation in the pews, that shows community, that shows fellowship to me. I think that shows me why people come to temple, partially at least. And the same can be said about outside activities, like I mentioned mochi pounding and bon dance in my bio. All that was kind of what attracted me to temple. I think that's kind of what brings other people around to the temple, and then maybe into services, if we get lucky, if they talk to the right people. Again, I can't really talk, I'm not part of that demographic yet, but that's just kind of my 2 cents on it.
You're getting there. Thank you. Next, we'll go to Brad and Joy.
Yeah, thanks. So obviously people can tell we're not in our 20s, but that was a case at one point in time. And I guess just as a more of a reflection, maybe more of a summary and potential reflection as an observation as a non-20-something-year-old, with Sensei Koichi mentioning some of his their activities, Cristina, Kieran, Wayde mentioning the BSC Friendship Club, and one common theme across seems to be fellowship, gathering, friendship, peer support group. So I think without, I guess, being redundant about what everybody said, I guess this is just more of a question to the people attending or who might later watch this on video, is that an overall recommendation I'm asking the Sangha and leadership to consider is, whenever trying to do outreach to any group, try to maybe frame it more from a question of, what problem does this church activity solve for me? What problem does Junior YBA solve for that group? It solves a problem of fellowship. What problem does BSC Friendship Group solve for Wayde? Meeting new friends, friendship, and parking. So I hate to get so utilitarian about it, but we're hearing from every person that went before me just now. I mean, Kieran kind of hit it on the head, that it is possible, and it is great if people come specifically for the Dharma, in terms of just cold call outside, no experience, I want to go and do that. But I think I'll just ask people to ask that question: what problem does insert church activity solve for me? Even in the beginning, Sensei Koichi, Kieran, and Cristina, I think I mentioned, if I was paying attention during the bio part, their initial involvement initial involvement in church came through peripheral non-Sunday service type activities. All of them found the Dharma and the three treasures have become such an important part of their lives, not through Sunday service. So it's just a remarkable observation. I think that the majority of the people on this panel have found it that way. So Joy, turning it to you.
Yeah, no, Brad and I were talking about this earlier, like thinking about the activities that our kids are in now. They're younger, but the things that they really enjoy are things like sports. And in those groups such as sports and other things, they have the friends, and the coaches and people that support them. So I think they're finding that community. If we can, kind of do the same thing through our church groups, kind of giving our kids that sense of community and friends, and even for like ourselves as the older the older part of this panel, but just thinking about what can that solve for us? What can we get out of being together and coming to the church and gathering?
All right, thank you. We have a question for Sensei Koichi. If your BCA youth programs primarily attract Asian Americans, or is there an ethnic diversity?
Right now, since we do market directly to the temples, it's just going to be based on whatever the ethnic makeup of each temple is. So currently at this time, yes, I would say a majority of the people might be Asian American, but that doesn't mean Japanese American necessarily. Our demographic definitely has been changing. We see more mixed families, people of other ethnic backgrounds. It's not incredibly hugely diverse, but it's definitely heading in that direction, and we're all very excited about that. And I do market some of my other events to open to everybody. This fall event that we have coming up, I have an event on November the 26th, and it's just open to everyone, high school and college age. And I didn't even write, Sangha members. I just wrote any youth that's interested in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, bring a friend, so yeah, we really do want to open it up. It's not quite as open as I'd like to see it, today, but that's just a kind of a function of how the temple demographics are. But we are definitely open to everyone.
All right, thank you. The next question I have here, how can lay leaders and ministers work together to create an inviting, welcoming, and attractive temple to the young generation? Do you have any suggestions for programs and events? How would we define success? So I think, I feel like Brad may have already touched on this, so I'll go to him.
Thanks, Wayde. Part of my work involves at UH involves always being a critic of your own work, bringing up annoying questions, being a contrarian for the sake of just hearing things out. So I guess just bear with me as I'm about just share for a couple of minutes. So I guess when I'm looking at the question, what the audience can see is that everybody, the panel did such a good job of taking all these questions and then putting them into a Google Doc. So I'm looking at these questions, inviting, welcoming, and attractive temple. So I think my first thought is I'm wondering if what's behind this question is, quote, inviting, welcoming, and attractive temple. Do they mean temple service, or do they mean coming on the grounds of the temple to engage in associated activities? And the reason I bring it up is, I'm going to take a sidestep real quick and then I guess just come back to the question. But the sidestep is one thing that I'm interested in, if Hongwanji leadership or anybody is willing to think about, is the church willing to consider or define success now in 2022 as something beyond or supplementary to Sunday service attendance? That is, how tied are we in order to be a successful Sangha, that we must go to church on Sunday service. Now, I love going to church. I go to church as much as I can. I do think it provides, having all three treasures, as Sensei Koichi said in a different call, provides the most enriching and powerful experience. So I'm all about it. You know, at the same time, when I'm looking specifically at this question, I guess it's more of a pause. The pause is, what do we exactly mean by inviting and attracting people to temple? And I'm just urging folks to think that there are probably many ways to get involved in temple, such as Sunday service, but also these peripheral, additional, supportive ways, such as fellowship groups, junior YBA, and all of these things. So I guess I'm just asking, even in a question like this, I know I'm the nature of myself and my job, I'm overcomplicating it, but what exactly do we mean by defining success? Are we tied to that idea of coming to Sunday service as the sole indicator of successful outreach? Or is there a complementary way? So again, I'm not saying instead of, because we want it all probably, right? Would we consider us to be successful if, for instance, Sunday services stayed about the same, maybe on the smaller side, but stayed about the same, but you had thriving extracurricular activities? I've been on a different call. Debbie had mentioned her kids would be interested potentially, for instance, in a thriving podcast that spread the Dharma. So it's just something to think about. And I guess I hate to be broken record, but it goes back to, I guess, my question for the larger group of, what problem does going to church solve for me, right? Does it solve fellowship? Does it solve learning about Dharma? Like what does it solve? So I guess in addition to that broken record of saying that same thing, I'm just throwing in there also, would the church define complementary additional ways of successful outreach in addition to attending Sunday service? I don't know, what do you think? Turning it to you.
No, I think we were talking about earlier was, is things like, like Boy Scouts, could be like a judo club, or, something that will bring people to the church as part of being part of that community. I know at Jikoin, we used to rent the hall out to community members to use for parties. And even though they weren't part of the church, they kind of maybe would see that Jikoin was part of the Kalihi community as a whole. We would see people at Bon Dance and other events as well. But it was just kind of nice to be part of that larger community.
All right, thank you. How about Cristina? How do you feel about that question? I know Hilo is pretty involved in the community as well, right? There's a lot of it's kind of a part of the community already.
Yeah, I think maybe a lot of our involvement, and also kind of going back to what they're saying about how do we define how something was successful. I think as far as like affiliates and stuff, we still have a lot of participation. We have preschool, we have judo, scouts, gakuen, all of those activities. And anytime we have a big event like Obon or Mochitsuki or something, like everybody comes in together to help, right? And so in that sense, like, is that successful? Because, we have so many people there from all different backgrounds, and they're all kind of, helping with the temple, being involved with the temple. On that note, I think something that I've thought about a lot in terms of Yes Camp, especially, how we can kind of make our programs a little bit more inviting and welcoming, but also trying to keep people who are already involved in these programs. Sometimes there's a weird kind of finding a balance point between making sure that people feel like needed, like they have a reason to be there, they have a responsibility. I don't think people really like to just show up and like, gain a lot from these experiences without feeling like they're helpful in some way. Like for example, when we have one like judo club shows up to set up all the chairs and take them all down. Junior IBA comes to do all the concession cooking. You know, there's all these different affiliates who kind of feel like, you know, they have to be there because that's part of their responsibility, without also like overburdening it and being like, oh, you know, your yes camp co-chair does this, this, and this, and this, and then all of a sudden it becomes unattractive. So I think maybe as far as attracting people, making sure that we have something for them to do that makes them feel like they have a reason to be there, or that they're needed there without overburdening them too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. How about Kieran? You want to jump in on kilos?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I like that Brad brought up what we define as success. I think it is important to consider that, because there's more ways to teach the Dharma, you know, without being in temple, without being in service every Sunday at 10 o'clock. You know, martial arts teaches some of the values that we do think about in Buddhism. You know, that's why we have judo club. That's why it's there. We have the preschool. We have, you know, junior Y. It's very involved in the community, like Cristina was saying, as well as 4-H. And, you know, having people be a part of that in and of itself is teaching the Dharma. And in my opinion, that's a success. But I know the entire idea of the seminar is how do we get people into temple? I think that is how we get people into temple, because these side activities need to be integrated with the church. You know, like Cristina said, we clean up the church at junior Y. We're very involved in some of the activities that it does. I'm not sorry. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Sensei Koichi, how about from a BCA perspective?
No, you know, I just wanted to echo again with Brad. You know, I just met Brad and Joy just in one Zoom call prior to this, and I've already really loved our conversations, man. I love how he thinks, and he brings up things. So I agree. Success doesn't have to be measured only by the standard of how many people attend Sunday service anymore. Our lives are changing. Our lives are busier. It's not like the old days when we were basically a farming community, when we all had Sundays off, and that's where we came to gather. And I would also argue that the fact that Sunday service is maybe less attended is not always a bad problem. As the temples were, you know, first established in the mainland, especially back in a time of World War II, this was one of the few places that this community was able to come together to share the Dharma in a safe way. So the fact that we are kind of finding different places to go and being busy with different things may be in some ways kind of a good problem, so to speak. But one thing I just wanted to comment on was, how do we get people engaged at temple, and how do we get people to feel more invited? One thing that I learned in our temples was it's really important for somebody to really go out and really meet that new person. It's one thing to be welcoming when people come in. Hi, thanks for coming. Take a pamphlet, take a manju. Thank you. And then they come back, but then we don't follow up with that afterwards, right? You know what I mean? Like, we're really welcoming when they first come in, but then after they come a few times, we don't go beyond that, right? So what I have learned at our temple, and we've been trying to do this on a small level, is you got to get people involved. So when you find out more about a new person, you find out what their maybe skill sets are, what their interests are, what their resources. You know, even Wayde, when I heard you mentioned video editing, didn't you, just now in your intro? Bam, see, I already picked up on that. I'm just like, I'm going to use Wayde to help us edit our Sunday videos, post stuff on YouTube. You know, whenever you get a skill set, you ask them to become involved. And I think this is a Sangha responsibility. Oftentimes we look and we say, what's our minister going to do to grow the temple? What's the board of trustees going to do, right? This is no single person's responsibility. This is our responsibility as a Sangha to take it upon ourselves to be inclusive and inviting, and to converse with people and learn about them. And as we learn about them, we can get them engaged. So if you get them on a committee or a project, that's how a new person can get plugged in. And we've brought in a couple of new people, and they're our main video editors now. and I didn't know them just a year and a half ago. And now they're really, really involved. And that takes a little bit of work and effort, doesn't it? It does take work and effort. And we are not as outgoing of a community. I'm being very overly stereotypical here in general, but we're not big on asking, right? As a community as a whole, right? We're not good at getting into your business, right? Susan, what do you do? How much do you make a year? You know, what's your how's your 401k allocated? You know, we don't get in there, but you don't have to go that far. But I think it is important that we do get to know them. And as you find those skill sets, it's going to benefit your Sangha too. It's going to benefit your temple because you're going to bring in all these amazing skill sets. And then when somebody gets to contribute to something in a meaningful way, that's how they find value. So again, I love Brad's theme of what need, I'm sorry, what did he say? What problem does the temple solve? And I would also modify that by saying, what need can the temple fill? You know, it doesn't have to just be a problem. It could be a need, you know? So yeah, that's the great way to express it. You got to fulfill something, whether it's friendship, whether it's learning, whether it's a skill, whatever it may be, that's what this temple can provide. So yeah, find out as much as you can about people and get them plugged in.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Kieran, right, too, you got involved with playing organ, right? Like, that was
Sorry.
no, that was one of your ways into the temple, right? You were
Yeah.
convinced you to start playing organ.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. I'm trying to see what's a good follow-up question to that. Here's a question. How can we overcome the don't trust outsiders mentality when trying to open the temple to the world outside of the legacy Sangha? I'll start with Sensei Koichi again.
Well, I don't know exactly what you mean by the don't trust outsiders mentality, because hopefully anyway, on our board, we don't have that mindset of, you know, not wanting to bring in outsiders. I think we're very focused into opening up our temples and our sanghas to, and by outsiders, I don't know if you just meant like the cultural, you know, I don't know what you meant, or just people that are non-members, but you know, we welcome everybody that has a real desire to just learn about the Dharma, you know, and its values. And if I can be together with like-minded people, no matter where they come from, no matter how old they are. I used to have this homeless lady, her name was Blanca, and she sat in service every Sunday in the front row. She would bring in her wagon and she would pull it into the hallways. And I understood that wagon was everything she owned. You know, that's something that we don't think about. That's something that doesn't really even enter our minds. But as she entered our space, that was everything she owned. So I would always say, hey, Blanca, let me lock this up for you. I had this little side closet, so I'd unlock it for her, and I would lock her wagon in the closet for her, and then she can sit in the front row. And I realized that, you know, she came to our temple every Sunday just for a moment out of her life of peace and of safety, and just to be safe, if nothing else. And of course, she would listen to the Dharma. And anyway, a lot of people would look at her, you know, a lot of the old bachans, I shouldn't say bachans, that's terrible, but you know what I mean? They would look at her because she's clearly a homeless lady and she sat in the front, way on the side, but they would stare at her. They would look at her. We would be like, what is she doing in here? And it's hard. And so I think that's what we mean by outsiders, anyone that is maybe different. But again, I took the time, I would talk to her. I found out she had children. She was articulate. She was she was articulate. She was a person. And it's really hard because on one hand, you know, you want to be open, but then on the other hand, there are those logistical problems. There was one instance where she had lice. So you see what I mean? So you run into these things. I know this is kind of a total tangent, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is there are so many people out in the world that are different. I had another girl that would come in and she would kind of yelp. She would just be in service. I mean, she would just do that. But she was feeling it. I mean, she was feeling it. She would sing the Gatha. She would stand up. She would be like, Dharma school is over. And if she's feeling it, I'm feeling it. I'm like, yo, man, you're feeling it. This is all good. Yes, it's a little bit disruptive. It's a little bit different, but you know what? We got to get over that, man. We got to get over that. We got to meet these people. And so, yeah, I think when we use the word outsiders, yeah, I mean, that's just what the real world is. And I think if we're going to be true to what our beliefs are, we got to be open to everything. And it's not going to be easy because it will disrupt our wonderful, well-behaved, cult society that we're used to. And it's going to be a little abrasive, but that's going to come with it, So anyway, that's my thought. I think, I don't know. I'm curious to hear what other people have to say about the openness to outside people.
Thank you. How about Brad, Joy?
Yeah, no, thanks. Just like Sensei Koichi, I'm having a little bit of difficulty wrapping my head around this question, so we apologize for that. And I think a couple of experiences that we've had so far, we've been blessed in a variety of settings since Hilo Hongwanji and Jikuen Hongwanji. Maybe I'll take the flip side of the question of like, how can we encourage new people to attend? Maybe I'll go specifically for Sunday service. So I think there are a couple of things that I think are particularly meaningful for when somebody comes to Sunday service that I've seen across both temples. One is at some point during the service, the MC or somebody goes out of their way to welcome that person of like, oh, we have a guest here in the back row and it's somebody's friend, and let's, after service, please introduce yourself and let's be nice to them. And the person stands up and waves and everything.
Even on Zoom.
Yeah.
Welcome, yeah.
Yeah, even on Zoom. Yeah. So I don't know if but I think that helps a lot across both Hongwanjis. I don't know if every Hongwanji does that, of like whenever there's a new face, like explicitly going out of your way to welcome that person. But I don't know. I think I love that. I think it makes a difference. And the other thing that I particularly like, I don't know if other Hongwanjis do it, but I know with Reverend Shelmet and at Jikuen we do. It's like continuation of the hybrid Sunday services in person and Zoom. I think, I don't know what the long-term plan is, but I think it is fascinating and such a great way that we have people, I don't know, sometimes have people in 2, 3, 4 different time zones attending Dharma service on Sunday morning, people that have moved away physically cannot attend anymore, and they attend in that hybrid way. So
I really do like that.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm like taking the flip side of the question of maybe like encouraging people that might not normally attend, kind of like however Koichi took it. So explicitly introducing folks, and also hybrid services are great. It's multiple time zones. It's such a fascinating thing. I don't know what.
Yeah, and even for us, sometimes we get busy, or if one of our kids is sick, we can still enjoy the Dharma and be with the congregation, even if it's virtually. So we still have the opportunity to join, even though we physically can't be there. So that is nice.
All right. How about Kieran? You have any thoughts?
I like that Brad brought up the welcoming the new members of the church, because something that I fondly remember before COVID was at the end of service, they'd always say, are there any new members to the temple? And, occasionally my grandpa would come and he would be in the back of the temple. He'd stand up, the people would clap and say, oh, welcome to Hongwanji. And that just shows that we've never had problems with, the outsider mentality. Or take an example, YBA, we would sometimes go to the, what's that called? The Salvation Army to do Feed the Hungry projects, and the homeless and the hungry would come, and we'd always do the words of Thanksgiving before we serve food, and all the participants would always join us. Would they know what we're talking about? Maybe not. A lot of times no, but they'd always come and they participate. And I think that's what's important. There was no feeling of, I don't belong here because of this is what they're doing.
And Cristina?
I was going to talk about Feed the Hungry as well, like Kieran was saying, but I was trying to think about like what we define as an outsider. I think like, even for me, like sometimes I felt like, oh, I didn't really grow up in temple, although like I'd been going to Gakuen since like 4 years old. I didn't like come to services until I was like in the 5th grade. So sometimes I was like, oh, everybody like already knows how to, or they know the words to all the gathas and I don't, or like, you know, I think there's a little bit of that like outsider mentality for a while at least. And I think everybody's just really welcoming, and especially as a kid, like, you know, they're like, just come do this, come, you know, this is how you do this. This is where you go. This is how you sit down. So I think we do like a really good job actually of accepting everyone and just kind of like showing them how to do stuff. And that goes like across, not just in services, but also like in Yes Camp and Junior YBA. It's always been a very open and safe environment, I think, for everyone, which is really important when you're in that age range. I think you're going through a lot of different things, and just kind of really getting to know people and understanding what they're experiencing, kind of realizing that we're all very different in our own ways. There's not really a normal, but, you know, just treating everybody with kindness and being very accepting, and just everybody has that kind of like, you know, this is a safe environment to be your true self. So that's kind of, I think, something that we do pretty well.
Sounds good. Thank you. There's a question that came up that actually would take us back to a previous discussion that we had with regards to what kind of problems can we solve? What kind of problems can the temple solve? And so there's a question about what are some youth problems that youth activities can solve, or what kind of issues are the youth facing that we can address? Are there issues in needs of social connections, friendships, sense of community, identity, spirituality? I'll start with the 2 youngins on the panel. Cristina, I guess you want to have any thoughts on that?
I don't know, youth problems that solve. I think a big thing that we actually had as one of our themes for Yes Camp, we had speakers who were LGBTQIA+. And so I think for a lot of youth in today's society, like we're finding that, you know, people are trying to find ways to become more accepting. And in our religion, at least, I feel like we kind of try to erase any biases. We don't do any anything that would make anybody feel uncomfortable. So I think something at Yes Camp was, you know, we're kind of like dancing around the subject, like, you know, should we do a Yes Camp with speakers who are LGBTQIA+? And we're looking at our demographic and we're thinking, you know, this is something that we need now in today's society for today's youth. And yeah, I guess, I don't know if that really answers the question, but I think like for us, that was one of the issues that we're looking at, is how we can be more involved in this current movement of acceptance.
Kieran, how about you?
I had a train of thought. I completely lost it, but I'm gonna try and go for it anyways. Something that going to temple kind of helped me with was kind of stepping out of my own bubble, I guess. When, you know, us young people, we have, you know, we have this, we have our computers, we have everything. We're kind of like tunnel visioned sometimes, you know, everything's in the palm of your hand. Why go out into the world? I think Temple solved that for me through stuff like, Junior YBA puts you out in the community. You do service projects, in town, around, you see people that you make friendships that last forever, and I think it was very effective in getting me out the door, basically, and then into the door of the Sangha, where I learned everything about, the Dharma, and it shaped me, I guess, especially in, sorry, lost my train of thought again, but that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Thank you. I don't know, any of the junior YBA kids want to chime in a little bit? Chihiro, you want to?
Yeah. Sorry, can you rephrase the question one more time?
It's what kind of youth problems or issues facing youth do you think maybe can be addressed with youth activities, or any kind of anything? Is there any specific youth issues that maybe the temple might be able to solve or fill in a need or a gap?
Yeah, I agree with Cristina, where I think she was talking about how we had LGBTQ panels. I think one issue, I think especially with the younger generation, is that they may not feel included in certain parts of society. So like, I mean, I guess from any youth who don't really know what the temple is, who haven't really been involved in Hongwanji, and they think of the word temple or something like that, they may have a different connotation or of what really is. But I think I agree with the thing that Hongwanji and Buddhism, they are very accepting. They accept you for who you are. And with all these panels with LGBTQ, with I think they had a hot topic seminar like a few weeks ago talking about different racism, current events. I think things like that really help to kind of bring youth in to know, like, oh, these are issues that we talk about. It's not only, it's applying the Dharma in a way, and also contributing to the Sangha, so that they know that, yes, you learn all these things from temple, but you can also contribute to a community, or if there are ways you can apply these teachings in a current event sense, or things that apply to them.
Thank you. If you guys don't know, Chihiro is our Junior YBA Federation president. So that's why I kind of shot the question over to him as well. How about for Sensei Koichi? Do you think have you noticed anything with your, as a youth coordinator, if you've seen any youth issues? And
Yeah, absolutely, Wayde. This is actually a really, really important topic. As I mentioned, we do this summer retreat program every year. So I've been a part of the YAC program, which ran for 13 years. And then immediately after, we created the BCA Youth Retreat Program it's been 5 years now. So I've been doing it probably for 18 years. And we do a session in the evenings, which I like to we call them team discussions. Okay, so this is after a long day. We do a long, rigorous day of opening service, chanting, lecture, classes, another afternoon service. So anyway, it's a packed day. And at the end of our long day, what we do is no more instructors, no other ministers, just myself and the participants. And we gather in a room and we just get to share. And this is a private and it's a closed session. We just give an opportunity to share. And over the years, I have seen so many topics come up. And I think when you ask about how can we address, issues that are going on with the youth, I think these types of settings are one of the most beneficial. And I understand from a professional, either a psychiatrist or therapist standpoint, you could get into a lot of hot water. I get it. Like, you're revealing a lot, but I believe that the way these sessions are, number one, we establish a safe space. We establish that it's very private, and they know they're sharing with, 12, 13, 14, 15 other people. The opportunities that we have had in these closed sessions have been, for me, they've been life-changing. as I watch these teens talk about everything from struggling with pressures, academic, home, relationship, gender identity, sexuality, even suicide. These topics have come up and they have been incredibly revealing, and being able to kind of share them in a safe space with other people that can not only extend compassion to you, but just understanding and just to know that you're not alone has been life-changing. So I believe that the temple can serve as a place like that. You know, I think Kieran and everybody, they said they use the word safe space, right? I think that's the greatest thing we can provide for all of our Sangha members, but especially with the youth. And we're not here to fix problems. You know, I had this idea that I was going to make Buddhist t-shirts that say, you know, got questions, and on the back it was going to just say, so do we. You know what I mean? Like, because we're not a place of answers, right? Jodo Shinshu Buddhism is not a place that gives you conclusive answers to anything. We don't teach the Dharma, right? We share the Dharma, right? So I think that's been the most beneficial things for these youth sessions. You know, we don't give answers. This is not a therapy session in any way, shape, or form. It's a safe place to share and to express and to just release. And I think it's been huge for us over the years. So I've seen great benefit in that in our programming.
Thank you. How about Brad? I know you are a professional psychologist.
Yeah, I like what everybody was saying so far, and obviously with the caveat that I'm not a 20-something-year-old, but I guess just what maybe a core, potentially a core cutting thing across what folks are saying in total, while also totally agreeing with Sensei Koichi that this is not therapy. I do think my perception of young people these days are one of the things they're with, in addition to COVID and just the world around us, there are a lot of problems with anxiety, stress, just you know, and it's a really tumultuous time, a tumultuous world, and everything going on. So I think providing people with a safe space along the lines with everybody saying, while asserting that this is not therapy, but the fact that you can talk to people, and then also the potential for sharing, as Sensei Koichi said, messages from the Dharma about more noble truths and eightfold path and all the variety of things that serve as guideposts and compasses in my life that I know that have helped me with my stress and anxiety management. So I think at the broadest level, it is not therapy, but I think potential is it helps with stress and anxiety and what people are facing. I don't know.
All right, thank you. Maybe one more question. We'll try to wrap this up a little bit.
You can ask Wayde if there's anybody that has a question out there watching too, since there's a last question. Like if anyone has a question they would like to ask one of the younger panelists, or, you know, we would love to hear from anybody watching, I think.
Or I mean, we have a Q&A kind of thing after this too as well. So how about let's see, it'd be number 11 on our list. What would interest the post-college adults to return back to temple or bring their family after they get married? Maybe we'll go back to Brad, maybe, since
Yeah, thanks, Wayde. Yeah, I mean, sorry, we're gonna just broken record, but I'll try to add something additional. Other I guess youth, like really like small, like elementary school to middle school kid centric Dharma messages. So I think, you know, for instance, at Jikuen Hongwanji, Reverend Nishiyama has gone out of his way for creating Dharma moments in a formalized kind of monthly activity. We've had during the pandemic, we've had Debbie and Jovi and other people from headquarters coordinate and go out of their way and allow us to attend Zoom-based kind of Dharma school activities with them. So for me, specifically within the context of Sunday service, that would be the big one. activities for our kids. And then back to other potential non-temple related activities. The other sort of like extracurricular type based activities. So there's kind of just like your standard martial arts activities, but or Boy Scouts, those other kinds of things. But I think another potential thing that maybe is not running up head to head with competing with outside sort of like private sports teams and those kinds of things is I really like, for instance, Jikuen and some other temples' emphasis on cultural type activities. So like bone dance practice and those kinds of things. Jikuen is connected with the Okinawan community here. So I think those would be, for me, those are the kinds of things I enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can chime in a little bit on this question as well. When I was with the Buddhist Study Center, this was something that I was talking with Reverend Kevin Kunyuki about with regards to post-college adults staying active. We had an idea at one point we should sort of revive the senior YBA, or try to create a 20 to 40-year-old-ish version of junior YBA. There was a point also at the in the fellowship club, we were trying to do we would have like classes or discussions with regards to your professional career, learning about personal finance, learning about how to operate an effective meeting, for example. Kind of career-based activities and classes. And I'm not sure that there's actual demand out there for that, but I mean, it was one of the things that kept me involved after I had graduated from the university. I sort of kept coming back to the Buddhist Study Center for those kinds of activities. Yeah, anyway, enough about me. We'll move to let's say Cristina. How about you?
I think depending on what stage in life you're in, obviously I don't have any kids, but if I did, I think it would be like Brad was saying, activities that my kids could do, and in terms of affiliates, and then also like just in terms of the service and Dharma School. I think for maybe where I'm at in my life now, I was kind of thinking about this, and although I remain very involved in the temple after graduating, like with Yes Camp, I always had like something to do or some responsibilities within a certain group. So kind of going back to what I was saying before, like, I had a reason to be there. But I realized like maybe during services, I wasn't as much participating prior to COVID, or I definitely wasn't listening to the Dharma messages as much. Sometimes I'd be down in the office, or, I wasn't on my phone or anything, but, maybe not directly in service, or, but I think like since COVID started, I kind of got tasked with like being the Zoom person. And I think more than anything, just because of age, like I'm not a Zoom expert, although some people think I am. I'm definitely not. But then I was kind of like, oh, okay, I have a job to do. I have to show up every Sunday, and I got to be like right there in the front row. I got to be doing everything. And like before, I would never sit in the front row unless, you know, I was emceeing or something. So I think like now I kind of realize like, wow, I'm always there. I'm like paying attention because I have to. I'm running the Zoom stuff, and like I guess for me, like it's been really fulfilling because I'm actually like listening to the Dharma messages now, and life can be rough sometimes, and it's like a good reminder of the teachings and, you know, life lessons, kind of setting you back after a rough week, you know, recentering and realizing what's important, how to treat people with kindness and how to be appreciative and all of that. So I think it's been really fulfilling, but maybe finding a job, I guess, for the young people who are kind of in the in-between stage of not really having like kids to bring back and participate in activities, but maybe some way that they can participate and feel needed, I guess, or have some kind of responsibility and kind of unconsciously get back into it that way.
Sounds good. Thank you, Cristina. Just so we can sort of kind of keep to the schedule a little bit, we'll open it up to discussion. So if anyone would like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature in the in Zoom. Rod Moriyama, I think you had a question about small group discussions or something, right? Did you want to just ask that question?
Sure. Hi, Wayde. I'm really appreciative of everyone's opinion in the panel. They're really good ideas. I was just thinking about bridging this getting to know people. And one of the challenges I've seen is that not too many people want to open up in a big group. And so having a small group is a much better way to have getting to know people better in terms of discussions and stuff. But in order to do that, it requires some dedicated something. I don't know how to do it. So I'm just wondering, what are some of the experiences people have had? As an example, if you have a judo group or if you have a kendo group, do they have personal discussion groups within those things so that a more in-depth relationship could be developed? I mean, that's just an example, but I just wondered what kind of experiences have people had? Thank you.
Thank you. How about Sensei Koichi? You want to take that one first?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like when you talk about all these affiliate groups, I think even they mentioned Boy Scouting and stuff like that. How do you have a connection, right, to the temple? Because we have a Japanese language school, we have a scouting program, but like they don't come to Sunday service. How can we engage those groups? Even last night, we had a scout Halloween party. So all the scouts come and we set up a table, minister's assistants, and we handed out candy, but they don't care who we are. They just wanted the free candy, right? They're just like candy, candy. So we didn't really establish any connection. So the other really great point that Rod made was, yeah, you don't approach a person in a giant group and make them tell their life story. That's way too intimidating. So I agree with that point 100%. So I think it's really up to us. So if a board member at least has a name tag or maybe a shikisho, they can approach somebody a little more openly, right? As opposed to just walking up to somebody. So we really encourage those people to engage them in conversation. We also have kind of a courtyard area. So when we have service in the Hondo, after service concludes, we go out and we have a courtyard, and that's where we serve coffee. And that is a great space for casual conversation. And we really encourage the minister to go out there. And also to go back to that last question about how do you bring kids back after college? If a staff member, minister, office staff, MA, if you remember a child's name and you go up and give them a high five and you say their name, they will remember you for the rest of their life. It's huge. It's just huge. And I think making that extra effort really, really helps engage young people. I know that sounds kind of elementary, but I think it makes a huge, huge difference, especially with Zoom, because they're watching you on Zoom. So I met these two kids in the hallway. They ran up, they went, Sensei Koichi, da, 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 da. And I was like, I don't even know who they are, right? Because they've only watched us during COVID and they're like 3 or 4 years old. So I've never even met them in person. And they ran up and I'm like, what's up, guys? And I just give them a high five, whatever. But it was just kind of shocking to realize how much connectivity there is out there without you even knowing. So yeah, that's a big thing, the connections and the individual things. But yeah, we do have to make an effort to connect to our other groups. So I was thinking we make candy bars and then we put like a Dharma wrapper. We make a custom wrapper on it. And you open it, there's a Dharma message on the inside. And then we hand those things out at all these scouting events, at the judo events, and it becomes the temple candy bar. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking of how can you do simple, small ideas to connect why they go to this building. It's not just for free meeting space, right? This is a community center. We're building the community. So I think Rod made some great points. We got to work on how to connect those things a little bit more. Thank you.
Brad or anyone else want to chime in on that question?
No, I just want to express gratitude and appreciation for what Sensei Koichi was saying about just really going out of your way to make those groups feel welcome. That's a really great point. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't see any hands raised. Anyone want to make any comments or anything?
Wait, could I know I apologize so much. I'm talking so much at this event, but
No problem.
I really wanted to express my gratitude just for Hawaii Kyodan, including me in your wonderful panel. And I just wanted everyone to know too that this I know the pandemic has been a really difficult and bad thing, but it also forced us to do this. I never knew what Zoom was before the pandemic, right? And so for us to even be here like this, I do want to take a moment to step back and just appreciate this opportunity for us to come together and for me to even talk with all of you. So I'm actually grateful in many ways too for this opportunity. And I also wanted to stress that Hawaii and BCA, we have so much to share. So I want to do as many of these collaborative things as we can moving forward. So hopefully everybody that's here participating and all the leaders that are out there, please, let's do more. I recently spoke to one of your financial officers and we had this great conversation and just sharing of ideas. So, here we are talking about how do we open our temples to outsiders and da, 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 da. Well, here we are too, even BCA and Hawaii, right? We're brothers and sisters, and we don't engage as much as we could, So anyway, I just wanted to express my gratitude for this opportunity, and let's continue to open ourselves up, to each other too, for all things and all ideas. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. And Brad, you wanted to share something as well?
Yeah, so again, it's like Sensei Koichi, wanted to express my gratitude and appreciation for participating today. Two potential ideas. I think that's just, again, sorry for the broken record, but returning to what Reverend Fujimoto was saying in the beginning, I think I wrote this down correctly. I think I wrote it down. It was so good. I think something along the lines of the Dharma never changes, just the way it is portrayed. So I don't know if I heard that correctly, but I heard something along those lines. So that's really great, and I think it's profound. So maybe it's just something for the congregation and headquarters to think about. And then related to what Sensei Koichi was saying about Zoom being an opportunity, maybe this is an opportunity for headquarters, for the churches and organization. This is a little bit. This is a quote that I tried to tell myself throughout all of COVID, and this is, I don't know if this is gonna be dark or whatever, but famous sort of Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu says, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." Right. So the idea is that in the midst of everything going bananas, but with the congregations and numbers coming down and everything, it's a chaotic time, but there's also opportunity. It's kind of like what Sensei Koichi what I perceived to him saying about learning about Zoom and these services that we have with people in all these different time zones. It wouldn't, if it wasn't for COVID, we might not have never invented the hybrid service. So maybe we're in a chaotic moment where we have to seize an opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Cristina, Kieran, you want any last words, last messages? Kieran?
Yeah, when I got asked a couple months ago to do this panel, my first question was why. But I'm very thankful to be here. I'm very thankful that I was asked to speak here. I think there's a lot of great ideas tossed around, and I hope that some of it gets integrated. It was very sad seeing how much the song kind of dwindled after COVID. I'm hoping that, now that we're having these discussions, that we're talking about how to bring people back into the Sangha, I'm hoping that it takes effect. I'm hoping to see that sense of community in the pews and outside of temple, in temple, at affiliate organizations and activities. I'm hoping to see that, back on the rise. And I think it will. I have hope for us. So again, thank you for having me here, and hopefully we can grow from this.
Thank you. Cristina?
Oh, also, thank you so much for having me. I'm truly appreciating of the opportunity to be on this panel today. I'm always a little bit, I guess, like nervous, especially when I was asked to be on the panel. I was like, what in the world would I have to contribute to this? And I'm not a great speaker, so thank you for bearing with me. But I think there are a lot of good ideas out there, and I'm definitely going to try to steal a lot of them for Yes Camp. So just to plug that in there, if any of you are interested in collaborating, or even Sensei Koichi, if we can get some BCA people to participate, I think we have a lot of new ways of looking at things and new opportunities that we can explore. So that would be awesome.
All right, thank you. Well, we are at the end of our allotted time. So if I can, Reverend David Fujimoto, if I can call on you to recite the Nembutsu.
Okay, let us put our hands together in Gasho for a moment of reflection and devotion. Who is telling your story? Through these conversations, we talked about relationships. Now we see the awareness of our limited selves is uplifting, because it means that every moment, every day, and every relationship matters. Engaging deeply with the world and with other sentient beings brings meaning and purpose. And with that, in appreciation and gratitude for life, we repeat the Buddha's honored name. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
All right, well, I have a lot of people to thank. First of all, thank you to our panelists, Sensei Koichi, Brad, Joy, Cristina, Kieran. Thank you very much on behalf of the Honolulu and Oahu Hongwanji Councils and the Office of Buddhist Education. Thank you very much for your participation. I think it was a really great discussion, and hopefully everyone learned something. And I would like to thank all the participants, everyone who attended. Thank you very much for all your questions. Thank you to Junior YBA for jumping on board as well. I know we have a federation meeting right after this. And thank you to the Oahu and Honolulu District Buddhist Education Committees for planning and coordinating the seminar. The recording of the seminar will be posted and emailed to all the registrants, registered participants in about 2 weeks or so. So keep an eye out for that. A short evaluation will be emailed also to all the registered participants. So the committee would appreciate it if you could complete it and help share your opinions and thoughts on the seminar. And big thank you to all those who gave generous donations on behalf of the seminar. the donations will be designated for future education programs. So thank you very much, everyone.